Good. Let's start it. Welcome. This is the Nottingham Planning Board, May 9th, 2018. And tonight's agenda, we have a public meeting set up with the RPC, that's Stratford Regional Planning Commission, to talk about an aquifer map, aquifer overlay for the town of Nottingham. And then we have a public hearing for applications after that. So if Rachel Mack's available, have a seat and maybe just talk to us a little bit about the mapping, aquifer mapping, what we have, what we need, that sort of thing.
Yep, so if it's okay, I'll just pass this out.
Yeah.
Derek, introduce the board.
Oh, sorry. I just jumped right in, didn't I? Buzz is here to keep me straight. I want to just go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves.
Robert Davies, alternate.
Teresa Bascom.
Tony Dumas, Select Board.
Edward Veal. Dirk Grotenhuis.
Susan Mooney.
Gary Anderson.
Joe Clough. That being said, you can start.
So I put together just a very rough map showing your current base zoning districts.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
And so I was looking through the zoning ordinance, and it does have the aquifer overlay district already described, and then the boundary stated as see reference map. So I didn't know if you had an existing map that you were looking to update. Or I did want to get a little more clarification on that piece.
Yeah, so we do have a map, and I'll just hand this to you. It's old, and it's not very good scale, and it's not really legible. So, you know,
As can happen.
so we have a map, but it's, I don't want to say vague, but
Not useful.
it's not really useful.
Okay.
So what we'd like to talk about is maybe updating it or upgrading it.
Yeah, so it's definitely similar. So the other piece that's on this, the aquifer transmissivity, those are the stratified drift aquifers that typically are what defines the aquifer overlay district that most towns and cities use. Some will vary from that slightly based on soils data, but from the most part, the research I did, other municipalities are using sort of the boundaries of that stratified drift aquifer. So this is the most current data that's available, sort of that I showed there with the hashing. So that would be my recommendation at least. Do you know what year this map or survey was done? I mean, because
In the
there's
90s.
definitely similarities across the two, so I'm wondering if this was just based on higher resolution and.
Yeah, I don't know, the 90s, I guess. So it's, I mean, if we have more recent available information from USGS or wherever the stratified drift information comes from.
Yeah, so this survey was current as of 2000, I believe. So that would be my recommendation. So whereas you already have that, you know, district defined and based off this map, that seems like that would be a logical transition to just update, you know, to sort of the equivalent area.
Rachel, would it be possible to add major rivers in town
Yes.
to this?
Yep, yeah, this was just something I just wanted for visual reference, so not what, you know, the final product is going to look like necessarily, but just so, you know, we could talk about where they were located and, you know.
Anybody have any questions or comments about kind of defining what's going to define those areas? Because it sounds like it's just going to be the stratified drift.
No, if there's any major changes to, compared to what the older map is, do we, I don't know, as a board, if we have to do any kind of separate notice for that, or is it just a public hearing and adopt the new map?
I think it's a public hearing and adopting the new map. And at that public hearing, if people, you know, want to voice their opinions, you know, we'll take that into consideration and then we just adopt the map.
What I can do is to send sort of the final draft of the updated version, and then I can also send a copy, if this would be helpful, with the older map sort of overlaid, so you can see where that difference is,
Yeah.
just as comparison, if people would find that.
Is this similar to like the overlay that's would be available like on Granite View?
Yes, yep, that's the exact data.
Okay.
Yep.
In case anybody's wondering, that's helpful. You can add the tax map and everything, and it's kind of, it's not perfect with the tax maps in the lineup, but you get a general idea.
Yeah, so that's sort of what we see before us, is that when we do have an overlay district, it's hard to tell on a map that's black and white and not a very good scale of, you know, what applicant might be in that zone and, you know, what parcels are and aren't.
Yeah.
So getting a finer, crisper line of definition is what
Yeah,
we're looking
definitely.
for.
I did notice on your Access GIS page, you didn't have the zoning, so that's something, if you want, I can provide you with the shapefile for both the base zoning and the overlay district, so that you can send that to them to add it. I'm not sure how all the, you know, back-end maintenance of that goes, but just if you needed the shapefile for any reason, if you don't have it, you know,
That'd be helpful.
you know, that's.
Yeah.
To get, we can give
I
it
can
to
send along, so.
assessing or wherever, just to, so we can get it uploaded on there.
You know, but for that exact reason, so you can see overlaid with the parcels, you know,
Yep.
and to zoom in, so.
Yeah, we don't have yet in place a permanent GIS position or anything like that, so for our community, it's maybe our town manager and assessing that has some abilities.
No, it's yeah, that's tough, but if you want, I'm happy to send that along with, you know, the map PDFs, just so you have it.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So just a couple questions logistically. Did you want me to print large format maps for the town office, or would you just like the PDFs and then, so you can print them as you needed?
We've, in the past, had you guys print a
Okay.
big map, because I think we have at least one of all of the relevant maps.
Yeah, and that's definitely one that we would really like to have on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to check before I,
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll want one large map, and then PDFs.
And the size, yeah, out in the hall, there's a bunch, all our maps are hanging, they're square, so I don't know what the actual dimensions are.
it should be 36 by 36, but I'll
Right.
double check when I head out.
And we don't have a printer that big.
Yeah.
We have tape.
So Susan, you mentioned, you know, major surface water bodies, so rivers, lakes. Are there other specific features you'd like on this map, or, you know, having roads and surface water, is that identifying enough in terms of keeping the focus on zoning, or did you want contours again?
Yeah, I don't think, I'm just speaking for myself, I don't think contours are necessarily needed for this.
Okay.
Since it's a stratified drift, you know, we've got other map that does have contours on it.
Yeah, I'd agree, I'd say,
Get too messy, I think, if you
Yeah.
add too much information.
And then do you want any information or excerpts about aquifers or stratified drift aquifers specifically, or anything from the zoning ordinance included as like a note on the map? So, you know, think of it as a large format, I'll still have the, you know, sidebar. Do you want like a notes section with any additional information?
Yeah, we probably want to reference the zoning section, whichever one it's in, so that if someone's looking at the map and wants to know what the specific regulation is, I know it's a continuous loop because you just go to the zoning and it says, look at the map, but
Right.
at least there's a reference.
maybe, do we want to have like an adopted line added, and we'd fill in the date once we
Yeah,
go through everything?
yeah, and yeah, we want an map adopted, because the zoning regulations may change, but.
Map, and
yeah.
and the map date, like whatever the map
Put a
year
date
was,
on
the
the
date
map,
was.
you'll know how old it is when
Right.
you look at it.
Yep.
Is your next meeting in 2 weeks?
Yes.
So I will work, I should be able to get a draft done by Friday or Monday. I did actually very recently resign my position, so I have about a week and a half left at SRPC, and then I'm taking a new position. So I'll be able to, complete all of this work, and then at your next meeting, if anyone needs to make, change that adopted on date, someone else can definitely, do that for you and get an updated PDF. But I'll at least get all of the draft and everything we discussed sent to Joanne. And
Yeah,
Get that
you can
part
send
wrapped up.
everything to Joanne.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can you put that on the tax maps or look into, so the people that use it, professional have it, because a map like that might be, I don't know what it would cost. She's gonna have it all electronically, give it to your tax map person, and it's gonna,
Yeah.
people are gonna know my lots, aquifer, my lots.
That's what she was mentioning, that
She
she
was,
provides,
you are
she
gonna-
provides the details, so we can try to get it added to the GIS, the layers that we have available online.
Great.
Because we have some layers available online now, and so we would try to get that one added on, and so you could just click it on there.
And this would be on the town website too, or would you have to come to the town hall to see? If you wanted to see the map that's gonna be on the walls, that's something you can, the PDF you can put on the town website.
Yeah, I think we post all our maps on the website, right?
Yeah, we would definitely have it posted on the website, but you're asking if it can be an overlay, and that's what we're gonna hopefully
Okay,
get done,
good.
for their request, but I don't know when, but it would be, it's a whole, yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
I just ask Rachel, thanks for coming in, and you're continuing with SRP. See, so what position are you going into?
It's with a firm called Stantec. It's out of one of their main offices, up in Topsom. They do a lot of biological and wildlife surveys, and with, for wind farm, like siting wind farms or other disturbances, wetland surveys. So, it's a similar position. It's GIS work, but a little different.
Joanna, on our tax maps, we do have the overlays and they show the maps. I can't remember, are the boundary lines, you know what color they are
I can find out.
offhand?
I can pull that up.
I'm thinking Grandview is yellow, so, might be a problem with the shading here, but I think on our tax maps, I think it's a dark line, I think.
Of the zoning districts.
Right, so if we end up using this as an overlay,
Oh, okay. Yep.
then you might lose the lot lines.
Yeah, the zoning district colors, I pulled those from a previous zoning map we had done for you. So if there are specific color preferences you'd like, I'll definitely check with Joanna. And then the overlay districts, I'll just make sure that doesn't conflict with
Yeah.
what those are.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think our town, they use a darker line, so I think it's fine. It's just, don't have to do all the work first.
So it is outlined in yellow, and the background is like an off yellow when we do our tax map stuff, yes. Everything else is white.
It's legible.
What?
It's legible, right?
It's definitely legible, I'm
No,
not,
it's different yellows.
But if it'd be three different,
If you match it up against this, it
I don't
will.
know.
Oh.
yeah, I'm not sure.
It might be
if
one of these
we overlay.
shades. So we might just have to change the color of the
I
residential.
mean, on the online viewer as well, they can adjust these colors if it
They can,
if
okay.
it conflicts.
Okay, perfect.
They should be able to. I mean,
Should being the operative word, right?
All right, well, thank you. Is there anything else you can?
that was everything I need to cover, unless anyone else has.
No?
No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll be in touch through Joanna, and then get drafts, and then follow up, within the next week, and
It's gotta be, right?
Yeah, no pressure.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next on the agenda is a public hearing. It's the continuation from an application from Jeffrey Cole Builders LLC, requesting a subdivision to create 6 residential lots from 18.8808 acres. Property is located at 211 Old Turnpike Road in Nottingham, identified as tax map 15, lot 8. And representative for the applicant is here.
Thank you, Roscoe.
And you, so from our last meeting, there was some comments, and then you received you followed up with some revised amended plans, and we had some additional comments in a letter to you. Just want to make sure, if you want to go through those individually, that's fine.
Do that, yeah.
So,
One thing I've done is the buildable areas, I've made them a larger line type. So when you see the magenta line, that is the what I'm calling the building envelope. And that's using a 20-foot to property line, which I apparently need to get a variance for, and I'll have to apply for that.
Excuse me, did you just say?
Mentioned bottlenecks in there. That first lot, partway through, I made a little bend in it, and now I've the lot between 8 and 8-1, you go out 245 feet. I have a small bend in the line. So rather than about a 45-foot area, now I got over 50 feet. So I don't have a bottleneck.
okay.
Roscoe, you're going too fast for me.
Yeah, before we
thanks.
jump into that detail, so I just want to stick to some of the clarity issues.
Yep.
So you've gotten a darker line around the building envelopes.
Yep, and I've labeled it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's in
And-
the legend. Yeah.
And in a legend with, what about the other lines, the setback lines and,
I've labeled them on the plan itself, like the 50-foot dotted. I mean, I didn't label every single one 50-foot setback line, but that's a typical, it's the only line that's black and dashed like that. So if you look in the upper left-hand side of the first lot, you'll see I've written 50-foot setback line.
okay, but still they're not connecting, not really.
What's not connecting? I have an enclosed magenta, which I'm calling a building up.
Yeah, the setback line. So if
Yeah.
I want to follow the dash line around, I can't, it gets lost somewhere.
Because the dash line ends up hitting a 25% slope line. I can't have it dash and magenta and 25% slope line. It's three things in one, like right here. The dash line hits here, but I can't be 50 feet from property line for a building because that's too steep. So you got different property line setbacks hitting slope setbacks. So, if you follow what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, a 50-foot setback line is a 50-foot setback line. I mean, it's from the property, so we'll see it.
You'd rather me just show 50 feet around the whole thing, even though, because it's a building setback line, and I can't build in a 25% slope. You see where I'm showing it, right? Like right where it comes down here, well, I could keep showing 50 feet, but you can't build here because this is 25% slope. So 50 feet from property lines, I hit something you can't build on, I go around that, then I go to, 20 feet off property line. I mean, I got so many different types I'm trying to show on it. I can't show in one line. I mean, I could just go 50 feet around the whole thing. It's simpler for me, but it might make it more confusing.
So I guess make it as clear as possible, make it as, you
Yeah,
know,
okay.
put as many things in a
Done my best.
legend that you can. I think some of these things will change as well as we get down through some of these comments.
Yeah.
The topo map, that one was really difficult to read relative to
That's why I've made this other
coloring
one.
and this one here.
I made the one I gave you today, so you don't have to look at all the topo and impossible to read, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're
This
still.
has, so, it's not gonna get any better than that. You got too much information you want, so the detail you want for buildings, you can look at this plan. If you wanna see the topo, you can look at this plan. But, I mean, I'd have to take stuff away from the topo to make that more clear.
Why can't you just make the topo a lighter black, like a gray, and lighten it up? I mean, there's
If that
many
helps.
different ways to
Yeah.
make a plan
Yeah.
clearer, and
Yeah.
this one is just still very confusing, and we shouldn't have to go from this one to try and find out where the contour line is.
Well, when it's steeper slope, the lines are close together, so there's a lot more stuff. If it was flat, then you'd have a lot less contour in, you know, the scale of it.
Well, maybe do it at a different scale.
Yeah.
Just confirm, so this, the map you just gave us tonight is different than what was given to the board,
It just
to the board 2 weeks
more
ago?
highlighted, basically.
Well, there's some lines that have
I
Changed.
changed this one lot line and moved it, I just kicked it in.
Okay, so this is different than the plan that you sent
What
us
you
last week?
have, this is slightly different.
It's different. Right.
I mean, this line, which I had a question about, is not here anymore, so I don't,
There was a bottleneck here, I got rid of it. Yes, indeed, it was 40 feet, and I shouldn't have included it. We're still over 30,000 square feet.
but I guess as a board, you know, me personally, I'm pretty uncomfortable trying to review plans on the fly. It doesn't do justice to the board, the town, or the applicant. So to get something presented to us that's here, that's different than what was given to us that we've had time to look at and analyze and review, it's not good practice.
So this-
I know
this is no
you're saying you clarified some things, but it makes it, you know, it makes it very difficult as a board to
Yeah, we need to
really-
fully review the plan.
But, well, and I don't expect it to look right, but I've made the buildable area, you know, more bold. That's a change, but now you can see it better. And I just got rid of one buildable area here, and this lot line I moved like 10 feet.
But, so there's also a question, what you're considering buildable area versus what we've decided as a board
Yes,
previously.
there is, so
with review.
I guess I'm gonna have to get a variance.
Yeah.
But I
yeah,
wanna
that's-
go over other issues tonight.
But you're hinging the whole buildable area thing on strictly just a septic system placement, is my understanding? And-
Yes.
But that has more to do with the dwelling placement. So the buildable area is the area fit for the placement of a dwelling, which has
Well, I
to
have
be 50 feet from.
differences of opinion from a town official on that, but it's a moot point, I'll get a variance, I'll attempt to get a variance.
Yeah, we have the opinion from the town attorney that says that you'll need to get a variance or amend the plan to make it within our regulations. The power of this board, we don't have the power to be able to give you that variance. You'll have to get that through the zoning board. So before we can even vote, go much further on the plan, you'll have to get a variance or change it substantially so that it complies.
The main thing I wanted to show you today was, I'll need a waiver from you. You said you have an 8% rule for driveways. I don't know any town that does that. If you go from that wall.
It's in our regulation.
I know it is.
Right,
I know,
so
but
it
you
is
get
what it
waived
is.
for it. So if you go 10 feet.
If you put a waiver in front of us, then we have it. Then we
But
can
I need
review
to
it.
know how you feel about it. If you go from that wall here, that's about 10 feet. 8% slope is 8/10 up. 14%, so you, from this level to the wall, you're only going up that much. It's, for a driveway, that's, you know, very common. So if I can't get a waiver to 14%, then we're gonna need to make some major changes. So I need to know how you feel. The engineer was supposed to come today, I talked to him 3 hours ago, maybe he got lost, but he was gonna explain some of the stuff on his driveway.
Yeah, I think we really have to, you have to figure out how you're gonna handle the building envelopes and septics.
Yeah. But then I do all that and come back and say, no, I want 8% grade, and I've been wasting my time. I need to know if there's flexibility on 8%.
There has been in the past, and we've granted waivers for driveways more than 8%.
That's what I need to know. So, I can go over some of the other things, but the next major step is to try to get a variance.
Yeah, what would help you as far as any other planning things here? Because, you know, what we're seeing right now is the building envelopes aren't working because of the setback. You'll have to make sure you really calculate those out. We'd want to see,
Well, they're already calculated out this way. If I don't get the variance, I'm gonna lose 2 or 3 lots. It will not, if I don't get the variance, we're not gonna get 6 lots, we're gonna get 4 lots at the most. So I need to get my variance, then go from there.
yeah, and you know what, I mean, this is exactly why we have zoning regulations and subdivision regulations, because if you're building 6 lots where really it should be 4, then maybe it should be 4. I mean, that's why we have these regulations. If 4 complies, then you won't have an issue. If 6 does not comply, which is what you're pushing, what you want, then
And there may be an opinion that these are excessive rules too.
But the rules are the rules.
Then the rules are the rules, and that's why I will have to get a variance.
these are the rules that our
If-
townspeople voted in and have agreed to have in our town. And we, as the board, are ones that oversee that, look at that, and approve the plans based on those. We don't make up those
I
rules.
understand that fully. But I've been dealing with this town for the last 30 years and.
Then you
the-
ought to
the
know,
setback-
then you ought
I
to know
the
what our
setback
regulations
goes
are.
back and forth,
You ought
back
to
and
know
forth.
what our regulations are.
No, I don't.
You
because
ought to, if you've been working here for 30 years, as you
The
say.
interpretation keeps changing constantly.
I gotta take exception to that. If you've been in this business, if this is your career, then the rules are here and they're in the town regulations. Don't come in here and feign ignorance, and don't come in and imply that you're making some backdoor deal with another town official, that you have some other understanding. It's your job to know these regulations, and you're wasting your client's time and money coming in here with this hot mess, trying to pass it off as an acceptable plan.
How long have you been on the planning board?
I just started, but from a layman's point of view, I read maps in the Army. I'm looking at these building envelopes, and more than half of them are within the setback that you should know for your 30 years in this field, you can't build in. And the chair had the point, if you're trying to develop a property that by rights should only have 4 viable lots on it, why are you trying to squeeze in 6?
Because I was told 20 feet is the requirement.
It's not a matter of what you're told. Read the town regulations.
You have
Start
different
from the,
opinions of
No, there
it's
isn't.
not about
I've read
opinion. It's not about opinion. The rules are the rules. And your starting point, why are you shaking your head?
You
No.
have
The
conflicting-
town has voted on these rules and regulations. That should be your starting point. And it should be your starting point with the assumption that the rules are the rules, and you don't go from office to office looking for a differing opinion. Start from the regulations as they're written, and go on, operate under the assumption that you're not gonna get a variance. That should be step 0. And then when you find yourself in an untenable position with a viable plan that could work with a minor variance, then you go looking for one.
Well, I was told by 2 reliable sources that.
Who are your reliable sources? Don't insult this
They may
town.
not.
Don't insult this
The
town by
building
implying
inspector
that you're
should get
getting.
Opinion on the setback because of the septic rule. I mean, it was misprinted on the website, but he said at the point I was doing it, his opinion, it was 20 feet.
We do have some new staff, and they are still getting up to speed. They haven't been in the town for 30 years, so it's understandable that it's gonna take them a while to get familiarized with everything, but that's why we have boards like this one, the planning board, whose purview is this, you know, for those final determinations, not the building inspector. The building inspector's there for when the building's about to get placed for the occupancy permits and such, but they don't have final say on the setbacks.
It's not within the scope of his authority to interpret these rules favorably for you. Okay? And a typo on the town website doesn't get you off the hook for following the town's regulations. It doesn't.
And the other thing, Roscoe, is a variance is for hardships, not to make it so you get to have 6 lots.
You're definitely welcome with anything, any kind of zoning and any kind of application. Obviously, you are definitely welcome to apply for a variance, and it's, you know, it's up to that separate board. You know, we can't answer for them because we're not that board, but, and we don't have the authority to do that, so, but you can definitely seek that.
So at this point, I think you have a couple options. Either you can withdraw the application, or you can request a continuance.
I'd like to continue, just one other, I'm also gonna ask for a variance to have common driveways, like eliminate this driveway and have a driveway come up, and then continue into here, rather than get 2 driveways almost to the same spot. So that's another variance I'm gonna ask for.
So you're gonna
Just less,
So you're gonna ask for the driveway to come up the left side of one lot, cut all the way across that lot to get to the second lot?
like on this one, you got 2 driveways all the way up, they're so close. I'd ask to not have to do that one and just build one driveway, then just continue it. So they would share a driveway, and I'd do the same thing for that one.
Yeah, that would be definitely a zoning matter too, because
Because, I know I'd have to get a variance. This one, he's building, you know, close to the road, so they'll just do their own thing. So I will be in,
Yeah,
on the zoning board.
And as a part of the comments here is also, we'd have to see the approval from the state for these driveways, because the way they are now, I doubt very much the state will approve those.
but you're saying you're gonna go back and ask for shared driveways?
Yes.
So you went from shared driveways to individual driveways, but your intent is to go back to a shared driveway with a variance?
Yes. Yeah, rather than send it to the state, 3 different versions, I want to see what the town's acceptable with. I know I can get state permit, the site distance is good, and you're allowed common driveways, so I've already talked to them, but I just haven't sent it to them.
And then just as part of the plan cleanup, you know, just some of these phantom lines, you know, the dash line that just kind of goes off into here, some of these other lines that, you know, aren't necessary because they're not going to be part of anything. You know,
Yeah,
if
well,
we
this is 50 feet off property line, but since you can't
cut through
cross
there,
that, I can get rid of that.
it's non-contiguous, so it's just for clarity, I think that would add to it. Because I think that's part of the problem right now is just the legibility of the map with additional lines. You know, if you show a 50-foot setback from this side, but you're not showing it from this side, so, yeah.
Any other comments from the board that would help this along? If not, I think we have a motion to continue this.
So, before we take a motion or anything, obviously the applicant's intent is to seek a variance or a couple variances from zoning. I don't know what the time period is for that, so we'd have to find a mutually agreeable date. I'm guessing 2 weeks isn't enough, or a month.
No, we'd have to, we'd have to go to zoning.
Right.
I'm not sure what their schedule is.
I've got the schedule for zoning.
I don't know what their application deadline is relative to the,
May 21st to the June 19th, or application deadline for June 25th to July 17th.
Okay. I got, what was that second set you gave me?
Okay, second set is June 25th deadline for the July 17th hearing.
July 17th.
Well,
The CBA?
yeah, we should,
Your July 17th is the ZBA meeting.
Yeah.
and
I
July
should be able to get it done in
19th.
time for the 21st. Yeah. I
So you'll
mean,
get me the application.
all I need to do is application and butters, and,
Yep, May 21st for the June 19th is what you're looking
yep,
at. Okay.
that would be,
Dirk, can we look at the property? We, Planning Board, Conservation Commission?
Yeah, until we get a plan of understanding where things are, I don't think it's pertinent to go
Well,
out there
down
and
the
look at
road, when
things.
it is appropriate.
Yep.
Individually, I think we have something signed that gives us access, which we can confirm.
Yeah.
But not as a sidewalk. Probably wouldn't be warranted at this time.
So then that
So for
would,
the ZBA, do they need plans as well as the zoning variance for May
yeah,
21st?
they'll
We
need,
will need plans, yeah.
So it's May 21st for June, sorry,
May 21st for
June
June 19th.
19th.
May 21st, June 19th.
And then our next, after that,
so then the application deadline that you would have after
would be July 16th.
June 19th would be July 16th
Or August 8th or 22nd.
for
September.
September
Oh, wait,
Oh, August.
What?
yeah, August, sorry.
or August.
I was reading it wrong.
Well, we can't just continue it? You're saying we have to start over again with planning board, or are we just gonna continue it after the ZBA meeting?
We're continuing after the ZBA, but we would, part of that would be, we would have revised plans that would have to get to us for review for the hearing, and our deadlines for that. We have May 14th, which wouldn't work, June 11th, which wouldn't work, and then July 16th is the next deadline for the August 8th meeting, or August 22nd.
We need revised plans at least 2 weeks before our meeting.
Yeah.
And if we do have a motion for continuance, then we have to have a date specific, I believe.
So it looks like July, was it 15th or 16th?
16th. Right, for an August meeting.
So the first meeting in August would be
Eighth.
August 8th.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion to continue it?
Yes.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I move that we move to continue this hearing from Jeffrey Cole Builders LLC on the subdivision to August 8th, 2018 at 7 PM.
A second.
So motion and a second. Any other discussion? My comment before the vote is, make sure you come in with a clear set of plans that meet our regulations or have a variance.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Those in favor of the motion indicate aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This application is continued until such time.
Oscar, do you want your plans done? I can recycle them too, but I didn't know if you wanted them back.
You wanna keep one?
Also. So the next thing we have on the agenda tonight is comment, board select, board staff, board members. We do like to open it up to the public, and seeing that there are still some here. If this is a time where it's kind of an open comment period, if you do want to make any comments for the planning board, you're more than welcome to. Now would be the time to do that. You can step forward, just state your name. We'll try and answer questions or hear anything you have. Okay, no, that's great.
Thank you.
Sam, you're okay? All right. Yeah. Seeing none, I'll just go around the room and see if anybody else has any specific comments or anything, updates.
I actually do. I have a question. Why? I had a phone conversation with the new building inspector and on personal business, but he indicated that he's got a notebook full of suggestions for changes and updates to the zoning ordinances. So why is he not attending our meetings and appraising us of this information?
That's good,
That's
good
part
point.
of the, well, no, that is part of the May 23rd meeting that we have with ZBA. It was originally to meet with the building inspector, Russ, and we invited the ZBA as well to try to have it be one of our joint meetings, and so that all interested parties would be applicable, but that was brought to our attention that, that he had been going through, and based on some of the things he was learning through classes, whatever.
But my point is that he's going in one direction while we're going in a different direction because he's not participating in our meetings. That's what I'm feeling.
And yeah, that's a really good point. I think at least communication between the board and
Well, the way that it should work and requested it to work is that any town staff, which they have access to and are sent notices of these plans and permits, applications, that they provide a letter, just like the fire department does, to Joanna, to the planning department, of any and all comments they have on that application. And so then we can look at those as.
I'm not talking about individual applications. I'm talking about, he said he had a notebook of changes and clarifications to our zoning ordinances,
So,
which we're not privy to yet, which is apparently where we're gonna get started with this process in the May meeting.
well, we certainly are
I guess
open
what
to
I'm
those
saying is,
suggestions.
it seemed to, we seem to have had a relationship with the previous building inspector where we sat in on most of our meetings and helped direct us towards changes that we needed to be looking at, instead of working on his own.
Yeah, I think it's developing into that. It's
Okay. Well, that's-
progressing to that.
That was my comment. I just,
Part of it was a switch in the position, like when the prior building inspector was, it was a full-time position, and now it's no longer a full-time position, it's part-time, and I know that
Would
part of
he-
the reason for him, we haven't even had a chance to meet him yet officially.
Right.
Because he was getting up to speed and taking.
I guess my next question would be, if he's part-time, he's still being compensated. Would he be compensated for attending our meetings?
Yeah, it would have to be.
Yep.
perhaps as a board, we should just simply invite him and say, we'd like to meet you.
Yeah,
We
we
are.
did, and that's,
Yeah, well,
That's why
that's
he's
the next
coming.
meeting, but, yeah.
because of whatever the restrictions were, he wasn't able, that was the first feasible meeting with him for us as a board, just because he wasn't a building inspector before, to my knowledge, so he was getting certified and everything else that he needed to do, and so this was the first
Yeah.
foray.
Paul Colby wore a couple of hats, and it wasn't the definition of the building inspector's role to be doing what he was doing for the planning board. So there was kind of two dual roles that he was playing in a full-time position. And the town has moved into just hiring a building inspector as a part-time. So it may evolve into something that, can help this board out.
But he's also the code enforcement officer. And
Yeah.
we obviously want him working on with the same code that we're working with.
True.
Yeah, it's, with Paul and everything, we lucked out because, just length of experience and he had such a part in it all. We had kind of a in-house resource for plan review and that authored a lot of our subdivision regs and everything else, so was very familiar with them. So, when he retired, obviously, we lost that and, it puts more impetus on the board to review and such, and at some point, we'll probably have to discuss as a board, seeing about that. So minor subdivisions, we review and it's pretty cut and dry. You start getting to the major ones, 6 lot, 10 lot, 20, 30, 40. We're probably gonna have to start contracting that out or really give a good thought to it to do it justice. And if, when we talk about that, it's gonna be a budget discussion, which will go before the board, town. And obviously, getting someone in there consistent would be the best. Having someone that we could contract with that would be a consistent option so that they, familiarize themselves, hopefully can attend meetings as requested. But to your point, yes, I think the next meeting is the first kind of reach out for that to try to make sure everybody's on the same page. Because yes, you don't want two different answers.
So we'll bring these up in the next meeting when they're here and the zoning board's here as well. Teresa?
I have nothing.
I'll talk to Chris too about your points, and if I understand correctly, I think our building inspector is actually shared with a couple other towns.
Okay.
So, you know, who's to say that, you know, perceptions of what's right and correct in a given town are being confused with a different town's regulations, but it's worth bringing up, so I'll bring that to Chris's attention. Also, I want to apologize for raising my voice. I just really had a problem with the gentleman suggesting that he was getting differing opinions from other people in the town office. You know, people whose job is not to do that, provide interpretations. That, as I said, if that's been his field for the past 3 decades, he should know what the rules are and what his starting points are, not come in trying to imply that, you know, this board or someone else in town is giving him bad information. That's unprofessional on his part.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So, but again, I apologize for raising my voice, because that's not how I should be
Apology accepted.
reacting to that. But,
Apology accepted and appreciated.
thank you.
Joanna, would you mind reaching out to Russ and just see if he can give us kind of like if he has like a notebook of things that he's suggesting? You know, I think the most conducive meeting would be if we kind of had some of that information ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it's just bulletized, and so we know, you know, what areas that are gonna come up.
Before I left last week, he was working on writing that,
Perfect.
typing that up. I'll see how, he wasn't there today because he had a meeting. I'll ask him to send that out,
Thank you.
definitely.
And right now, for the next meeting, we have Russ, the ZBA, and anything else?
It was supposed to be the Evans case continuation, however, they never made it to a ZBA case, so I don't know what's happening with them. So how should I handle that? Do I contact them and find out if they're calling the case, or do they have to be applied no matter what?
They will have to request it. So we had it continued to the next meeting.
Yeah,
They will have to write a letter to the board, to you, requesting another continuance to a specific date,
okay.
if they want to do that.
And if they don't, they're gonna have to start over, correct?
Yes.
So it probably would behoove this board to remind them of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that.
That's all for me.
I don't have anything. Oh, I
Last,
want to take it back.
I do have something.
Is it a letter? It isn't.
No, it isn't. I never received the letter.
I know. The shame is on. I do want to bring up master planning, because we need to start a master planning committee. And we've started a little bit quasi with some of the transportation pieces through the transportation subcommittee. But I'd like to get rolling on the rest of the master planning updates. Is there anybody on the board that would like to chair that, or is willing to chair that? Does anybody on the board know anyone outside of the board that would like to chair that?
I think this would be a pretty good discussion at the next meeting, just because
Okay.
well, ZBA there too, so we'll have
Right.
3 to 5 more people attending.
Well, yeah,
Depending-
that depends on how many of the ZBA members show.
Yes.
When we-
Well, think about it.
I'm not trying to push it off.
When we did the update last time, it was a revolving chair and revolving secretary, so everybody kind of shared the wealth.
Okay.
And that way it wasn't a big burden for any one particular person.
Probably an initial appointment that just kind of set direction, and then from there, road rotated.
Because so many, everybody on the board had.
And then it's
had-
just a chapter by chapter look at it, or is it, was there a different structure to it?
We did chapter by chapter, but it was jobbed out to a consultant.
Yeah.
And we decided right up front what our timeline would be, what chapters should be done first, because they had more research involved, or we needed whatever. And that was the strategic outlay of where we were going and how we were gonna do that.
Okay.
I think there were 5 members, ZBA, planning board, community at large, historical society.
Conservation.
I think I wore 2 hats on that.
Okay.
But I know that one of the select board people has expressed an interest in being on the master plan update this time around.
Okay. So maybe maybe the board puts out a notice to all the other boards, but I'd also like to make a public notice so that somebody at
So on TV?
large, yeah,
Okay.
Website.
who might be interested in being on the master plan committee, that's not a part of any board, and they don't need to be, could come in and provide some information and be on the board and participate.
Yeah, maybe from the business community or the schools.
All right. I'll send out what I come up with too, to make sure that I am not missing anything before I get it posted elsewhere. Do we want to include Facebook pages? I've heard conflicting information from the town as to whether we're using Facebook or not using Facebook.
I don't,
Might produce something.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they'll ask me or one of the others with Facebook access to just copy or link notices from the town site to the various Facebook forums, and, you know, I do that occasionally. But we don't have, the town doesn't have an official Facebook presence, and it's probably safer that we don't.
So as our ex officio, would you like to be the one that goes ahead and posts anything that's relating to planning board?
Yeah, just give me a heads up,
Okay.
so I know that, you know, if, just let me know that something's on the website
Sure.
that you want me to blast out through Facebook, and I'll take care of
Okay.
it, yeah.
Also, Karen Davidson's online forum might be a good.
She's done.
She's done, she's
Oh,
done.
she is?
closed it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's too bad.
She moved to Rochester a few years ago and realized it wasn't really that fitting anymore. And she wants-
Didn't really care about Nottingham.
No, she does, but
Well,
just
she
wanted to
doesn't live
spend some
here
more
now.
time in her community there.
Yes, that's good.
That's too bad.
While we're still on the master plan topic though, can I give my feedback?
Of course.
Sure.
So I attended the conference, and one of the things that I was part of was the master plan suggestions, and it suggested that you don't go attacking any more than 3 major sections at a time when you're updating. And so I wonder if we want to do that this time instead of trying to do a full-blown update.
Yeah, because I don't want this to last 6 years, like, I think that's what the last one took, right?
It took 3 years. 3 years.
I think the initial thought was this one was gonna be easier because the last one was a complete overhaul versus this one is hopefully just
Yeah,
updates.
just updated, yeah.
I agree,
But-
hopefully, but it might be in our best interest to say, okay, we want just this section and this section and this section, that's it, and then next year we do another 3.
And adopted along the way.
Right. Kind of like we do our zoning ordinance, and they're supposed to jive really closely. The master plan and the zoning ordinance are supposed to go very closely hand in hand, as well as all of our other regulations too. So just, that's one of the big things, one of the big takeaways that I had was to really make sure that they go together really well and that you don't burn out by attacking too much at once.
That's a good point, thanks. And I think that's something that, whatever the first committee meeting will be, once those members get, you know, elected or, then, we don't have to elect them, but
The point.
appointed, then, you know, they'll go through that strategy,
Okay.
so it'll be good.
So let me ask, just for my own education here, when changes to the zoning regulations are made, you know, on the ballot and passed, do you go back and edit the master plan on the fly, or do you just save those changes up for the periodic update?
No, usually the zoning, so usually when you're looking at zoning and subdivision regs and site plan regs, I think one of the tools that you're using when shaping those is the master plan. So you're using the master plan to help guide you in the zoning and in the subdivision regs and in the site plan regs. It's like basically the will of the town, or, you know, for a 10-year outlook. Master plan is usually 10 years, so.
Yeah.
So part of that planning process is taking that, seeing the feedback in it and the numbers in it and the data, using that as one of the guides to do your zoning and everything else around
Like
it.
sort of vision versus methodology. Yeah.
Yeah, you need a strong master plan first, where you place your zoning ordinances. If you do it after the fact, you could be liable for a lawsuit if it's not reflected in the master plan.
And master plans, if you just go town to town, vary widely in quality and detail. You know, from very basic to really, and ours is ours is a really good one for, that last revision was brought it modern.
And it's a good plan because, you know, we use it. You know, the worst plans are the ones that sit on the shelves, but,
Yeah.
you know, we keep,
Update.
these have action items in them, and we try and attack the action items and go through them. So I think it's a good plan, but yeah, it just needs to get updated.
One of the suggestions too that I really liked was making sure that you had a couple teachers, or at least one teacher, from the town on there. And the recommendation for that led to, that teacher utilizing some of the students in the school to draft up pictures of what they envision their town to look like and what they would really like to have included in their town. And, you know, they didn't include those actual plans in their zoning ordinance, their master plan, but it led to a lot of discussion amongst the board about what they want the town to look like, so that it'll be hopefully what those kids will want to stay in town for as they grow.
It's a good idea.
Really a cool idea.
Good idea.
Yeah.
A good aspiration to have the whole thing ready for the next 10 to 20 years with the tricentennial too.
Yes.
All right, sorry, I've
That's okay.
waylaid your comment.
I went to the same conference as Joanna did, the OEP, OSI, along with two members of the ZBA, and several of us went to the presentation about accessory dwelling units, and that was very informative. I sat in on a solar presentation, and it was an update on how towns are dealing with solar. And most of the problems were in urban areas where people put up an array on their front yard, and it bothered all the neighbors. But so it was very worthwhile. It's an excellent conference. I do want to make an announcement to the public that the Conservation Commission this Saturday at Earth Day will be passing out free litter bags so people can pick up trash in their neighborhood if they wish. And the recycle center has asked that recyclables go in one bag and regular trash go in another. And this is sponsored by the Northeast Resource Recovery Program, Litter Free New Hampshire. I would never remember that on my own. And then bring back the bags to recycling Thursday or Friday or Saturday the following week. And there should be a Conservation Commission member there at a table to count bags and extend gratitude.
And the week after that, is that the official Conservation Commission cleanup day too? I saw one,
Well, that's what it is.
is the
It's
weekend
the-
after, right? So it's pick up the bags, Earth Day,
Pick up the
and then
bags this coming Saturday.
cleanup
And the extra ones I'll have here in the town office. I'll just let people know. I've already checked with Dawn. And plus directions. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday the following week, bring the bags to recycling.
What about,
On Saturday, I think, right?
what about the couches and the tires and all that
No.
stuff that
No.
that are in the ditches?
No.
They're not gonna take that?
You know, there were tires on Flutter Street and also on 156.
Recycling center on Earth Day won't take those?
So we got a call from the police wanting to know if we had seen anybody.
I think that would be a request to the select board. Would have to give the authority on that one, because there's a cost for the town to dispose of it. Either way, so.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
cost of the town leaving them in the ditches.
I agree. I mean, right. So it's a
Yeah.
matter of people abusing it and bringing in everything that they've been stockpiling in their yard versus.
True.
I think they could probably report things like that, but certainly it's not part of the pickup day.
Public call for game cameras facing the roads over the next 2 weeks.
People steal those.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Susan, are the recycled bags zero sort, or is it separation like we have to do when we take our own stuff to the?
It's just recyclables in one. I'm not sure how they're gonna handle it, at recycling.
Okay,
Just gonna dump them out and then sort.
okay, so it is zero sort on the recycle.
Right, but clean, not
Yeah,
Well, picking
nasty,
them off the road, how are they gonna be clean?
Right.
reasonably clean. You know, not full of worms and things like that.
So you just want us to shake them out, but not bring them
Yeah.
home and wash them and then put them in the
No,
bag?
don't do that.
Because I wash my stuff before I get rid of it, but I don't
I
really
do
want to
too,
take all
yeah.
that stuff
But
and
before you
home
throw
and
it out
wash
your
it.
window on the road, you don't.
I throw out my clean bottle.
So, thank you, I just wanted to make that announcement for
Oh, thank you.
picking up the town.
Thank you.
Gary?
Stratford Regional filled their administrative director spot. I don't have her name, but a woman from Durham, I believe. Kyle Pimento has been filling that spot until she starts, so I don't know when that is, begins. The other thing is Joe and I went to Hard Road Travel Seminar, and I'll let Joe take it, and
Sure.
if you miss something, I'll fill it in.
That
How's
sounds
that?
So it was a little different than I expected. It was definitely more on the legal requirements and things that towns can and can't do with respect to roads. Some of the questions that we had, didn't really have an opportunity to ask some of those, but they did get on the private road topic. And one of the things that Charlene was there, and I think she's bringing something to the select board about maintenance and of private roads, that sort of thing. But as far as approving plans, there are two things that stood out. So RSA 674:41 generally prohibits issuance of building permits unless street giving access is on a class 5 or better. Something that we probably want to keep an eye on when we get the private road subdivisions. If that private road isn't up to our town standards of being a class 5, we don't have to approve it. And actually, we don't have to approve on private roads in general. And the other was, as far as a street giving access, an easement alone is not sufficient access. So if someone has an easement, that doesn't necessarily qualify as a street giving access. So I don't know, as long as I've been on the board, I don't know if we've had that scenario come up, but, what was the last one? Oh, and this is the last one, and I think this is something we might want to consider either for the checklist, or maybe it's something that we do prior to issuing a building permit, but it says prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant shall produce evidence that notice of the limits of municipal responsibility and liability has been recorded in the county registry of deeds. Essentially saying, we approved your subdivision on a private road, and they filled out basically an affidavit saying we have no responsibility for maintenance and upkeep or anything with your road.
We actually, I've just finished revising our document for that, we hadn't been doing that, and that will be done from our file.
Awesome.
Yes.
So in fact, they called that a waiver. And the other piece of that I didn't realize was that actually the selectmen really should be the ones to approve building on a private road, and definitely not left up to the planning board. So that's something that I found interesting, and also, so along with that piece, that you mentioned the waiver, but that's also the time that if the selectmen are hearing, a case for a building permit on a private road, they could also ask, that's the opportunity to ask about the history on the road and the ownership and all that. And is it more than just, as Joe mentioned, not an easement, but, a private road, and who are the abutters and all that other information can come up.
I think that's
so
something.
when should that happen in the process of us approving a subdivision? Should it happen before?
Sounds like it. Should be
Yeah,
before.
sounds like before, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something I brought up in email at least about the private road thing, about getting maybe getting legal opinion on it, if we didn't get full clarification from these, between that and the OIS conference. You know, where do we stand, you know, if it goes to zoning first and they get a variance, you know, does that then just, if everything else on the plan is met, then are we bound to pretty much approve it? And then from there, does it go to BOS for final approval? 'Cause I think in the RSA language, there's something about it, or it's been delegated.
Yes, it does say that.
Can I say
I'm
something?
just under the assumption, though, that maybe what's happened in the past is the building inspector basically approved that for the selectmen. This is an assumption completely, but, you know, representing the selectmen, but I maybe
So the
don't,
building
maybe.
inspector was delegated that.
Yeah, but that's just an assumption.
What if somebody owns a building lot of record on a private road? And then all they have to do to get a building permit is to go to the building inspector.
No, they still need approval according to RSA 674,
Approval of who?
From whom?
from the selectmen.
Yeah, it says, so the RSA.
So it'll be the responsibility of the building inspector to send them to the select board first.
Well, RSA
Okay.
674-41, 1D, lowercase d, speaks about, you know, about building permits issued on a private road, provided that the local governing body, after review and comment by the planning board, has voted to authorize the issuance of building permits for the erection of buildings on said private road or portion thereof, and the municipality neither assumes responsibility for maintenance of said private roads nor liability for any damages resulting from use thereof. And prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall produce evidence that notice of limits of municipal whatever have been waived.
So that says after the planning board has reviewed it.
After review and comment, it doesn't say approval.
Right, we can comment but not approve, from what I understood.
So, yeah.
There was a case about 10 years ago where something went to the ZBA and the ZBA gave permission or variance. The Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, was not in favor. And it went to court. And the ZBA, whatever they decide, they are the top dog. So if the ZBA says yes, then the Select Board really has their hands tied.
Unless there's an error in it.
So, yeah, the
But it did go to court.
It went to court and the
that
Select
case.
Board lost. I don't remember what the case was, but it was,
I attended that.
yeah. You remember what it was about? Were you on the board at the time?
I think this should be another good case for either SRPC's opinion or legal, just because I think we're gonna see it. I know Northwood is going through this right now with if you read their stuff, there's lots of cases of requests on private roads.
So Joanna handed me our policy. The town of Nottingham does have a policy for building permits on private roads. Board of Selectmen adopted the following policy in 2003, allowing the building inspector to issue building permits to applicants on private roads under the following circumstances. So the authority was to the building inspector under specific circumstances.
That's just to issue the building permit, though.
To
There's
issue-
other stuff that happens before that.
Yes. The following building permit applications will be directed to the ZBA prior to the issuance of a building permit by the building inspector. So,
That may or may not change. It's being discussed, but the ZBA's workload has increased tremendously because of this coming to light. It was not practiced prior to recently. So,
Well, I think the big thing really to let the selectmen know about is, if they don't know about it now, is that waiver liability, the opportunity to at least have the property owner sign this waiver, releasing the town of any liability.
And that's definitely being acted on, and I will not record any plans for private roads until that waiver is signed, and that will get registered at the same time. So, I think that's part of the way that we're getting worked on the private road issues, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we did have some comments about that at one of the past couple of meetings I was at. Another thing came up too, I was talking with the city engineer in another city around here. He was saying for developments in, how did he put it? Where there's gonna end up being a private road or a class 6, that they require the developer to bond the project in case it fails, so that way there isn't a half-finished stretch of road that the town would have to assume control of, to make it viable and for the safety of the people that end up living out there. Do we do anything like that?
Yep.
We do?
We do it
Yeah.
for new roads.
Yeah.
So that's where we kind of run into an issue with this, if someone's asking for it, and they get a variance potentially to subdivide on a private road. Does that, then they get our hands of requiring that the access road be brought up to standards.
To town standards.
Right, so, and then we don't have the purview to accept that road, because it's gonna be a private road, with private ownership. So with new subdivisions though, and the road goes in, it's bonded out.
Right.
And that's for full cost, and then we can release parts of the bond as it's built, and then an engineer inspects it and makes sure, yes, it's up to spec.
Right.
And then we hold on to a certain percent for a number of years, to make sure that it withstands, that it holds up for, I think, 4 or 5 years
Right.
before we release the final like 10%.
Joe, do you have anything else?
That's it.
Do we have minutes?
April 11th. You'd already sent these out, right, Joanna?
Okay, so they've been sent, and you've gotten comments, and
Yeah, they were.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of April 11th, 2018 as amended.
Second.
motion is second. Any discussions? Those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. Good job.
Motion to adjourn?
A second? Gary. Sly Fox.
Vote?
Aye.
Go watch the Celtics.